How's it going, traders? Hopefully you guys enjoy this weekly Forex forecast, and make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Alright, starting things off with the Cot Report for the US dollar. And remember, this Cot Report is available on my Patreon, links in the description down below. And the banks this week added 2,609 long positions, and they also added 1,717 short positions. Now remember, I've been talking about the last couple forecasts. We are reacting off of this weekly area of demand on the DXY right now on the US dollar. So that is definitely something to take into consideration. If you look on the daily chart, which is the bottom left chart on my screen here, the momentum is still clearly down. But if we go over to the 4-hour chart, something has happened here that is definitely significant in my opinion. We had obviously we had a very strong 4-hour downtrend with supply zones being respected all the way down, trend lines being respected, but the last couple days, the last day here, we did end up removing this downward trend line, leaving us with demand down here. Now this demand down here is definitely very poor quality, but what this shows us on the US dollar is that we have lost momentum to the downside on the lower time frames. And it's always important to remember, how does a downward momentum or downward trend like on the daily chart here, how does this change? Well, it changes by lower time frames such as the 1 hour and the 4 hour starting to change directions. So we could be seeing the US dollar start to begin to rally back up to 110 in the long run. Obviously that would take a long time for that to play out. But I just wanted to point out that we have lost significant downward pressure here on the US dollar. So trading this week is definitely going to be difficult, but stay tuned for the rest of the forecast, and I'm sure we will find some setups. All right, on to the forecast for the Euro US dollar. The past week, the banks got rid of 8,648 long positions, and they also got rid of 8,480 short positions. Now, on to the chart here, we almost reacted off of this weekly supply zone at 1.07. Remember, the momentum is clearly up on the daily chart, and the momentum is actually still up here on the 4-hour chart. Now, since the overall structure on the weekly chart is technically down, even though we have lost momentum on the weekly chart in this little sequence right here, I don't really disagree with potentially looking for shorts on the Euro US dollar. The problem is we haven't really got a signal yet for that to take place. So right now, as I'm recording this on Friday, this trend line is currently still holding. Yes, it's looking like it is going to be breaking, and it looks like we are basing up for supply right here and breaking this downward or upward trend line. So as far as looking for shorts go, I would definitely wait for something like this to take place, where we can not only remove this upward trend line, but this demand at 1.05 as well. And if we're left with a 4-hour supply zone right here, I don't think that just looking for a short off of that supply, if that does take place, is a good idea. I think that instead, if we do get a supply zone right here by removing this demand and trend line, then I think we could use this 4-hour supply zone as an area to look for a day trade coming off of that 4-hour supply. And a reminder, if you do want my zones on a daily basis, like this supply zone, if that does take place, check out the YouTuber Patreon membership for only $5 cap per month. You can get my zones on a daily basis. So as far as longs go on the Euro chart, I think longs are still okay in my opinion. The problem with looking for longs inside of this 4-hour demand zone at 1.05 that I was just talking about is the fact that if we do contact this demand, it means the upward trend line has been broken, meaning that this is definitely low odds. But since we do have basically a daily uptrend, which I'm actually going to change it to that right now. Since we do have that daily uptrend, it makes this the fact that this trend line would be broken if we hit the zone a little less significant. So if price does pull back to this 4-hour demand zone, you could look for longs on a day trading time frame, but confirmation will definitely be needed inside of a zone like that. So a little bit of a confusing time here on the Euro US dollar, but patience will play out. We just need to be focusing on this 4-hour chart to see what happens around that 4-hour area of demand. All right, on to the forecast for gold. The past week, the banks added 12,937 long contracts, and they also added 2,413 short contracts. Now, remember, we are reacting off of this weekly area of supply on gold at 1806. Now, the zone is tested once already, so that means, in my opinion, that the zone is getting weaker, and it's definitely very possible that we are basing up for a higher push up on gold, especially since we are coming off of significant demand down below at about 1640, coming off of 3-month and weekly demand. So in my opinion, gold is definitely looking very strong. The problem with gold right now is this 4-hour chart. Now there are a few options here on the 4-hour chart. Since we are reacting off of weekly supply, this is what a confirmation trade short would look like. We had demand, we had an upward trend line, and we did end up removing both demand and the upward trend line. And what removed it? Well, technically it was this zone and also this zone were responsible for removing those areas of demand and responsible for confirming a potential short trade. Now, since weekly supply is tested, it makes this short definitely low odds, but it's definitely possible we pull back like this and react off of the supply zone, or break the supply zone and react off of this one and move down from there. Now, let's say we had a weekly downtrend and we were pulling into weekly supply and we got this same type of confirmation right here. Then I would say this 4-hour supply zone, or this one, preferably the lower one here, I would say, in my opinion, if we had a weekly downtrend, it would be okay for you to place an order here with a stop loss here and take profit down here. But the problem with that is, like I said, the weekly supply is tested and we are not in a downtrend. So in my opinion, if you are going to look for shorts inside of this zone or this zone at 1806 or 1791, extra 15-minute confirmation will be needed off of both of these supply zones, because in my opinion, it is definitely very possible for gold to continue to rally, break this high, and continue with the overall 4-hour trend and create a daily uptrend. So a little bit of a confusing time here on gold, but at the end of the day, we can either be waiting for potential long trades by removing these 4-hour supply zones, leaving us with 4-hour demand, and then we can look for longs inside that 4-hour demand. Or if you want to catch a day trade off of one of these supply zones, you definitely can. But like I said, confirmation will 100% be needed based on the idea that this weekly supply at 1806 is tested. All right, on to the USDJPY forecast. The past week, the banks got rid of 14,107 long positions, and they also got rid of 1,299 short positions. Now, remember on the weekly chart here, we did end up losing significant momentum to the upside. And in last week's forecast, I pointed out this daily area of supply at 137, and I said we could see a reaction off of it, and we clearly did. The problem with it now is that we did push back up for a second test, and there was a confirmation here, and I just wanted to show you guys this really quick. Now, I talked about this 4-hour area of demand right here at about 136 around there. I can't see the exact price, but we reacted off this 4-hour demand, and this was a very significant 4-hour area of demand. And since we were reacting off of daily supply up here, it was safe to look for a confirmation trade short, in my opinion. Now, the problem with that in this instance is we had our demand right here. The demand was broken, leaving us with supply. But if you look what happened. We pushed up, broke right through supply, just peaked above it, and then pushed down. So this is why I do not like rally-based drop supply zones or drop-based rally demand zones. Why? Because basically everybody's seeing this pivot high here. It's a very obvious price point, and is where a lot of retail traders will try to short here with their stop losses at the obvious peak high. And if you look right here, in my opinion, this was just a liquidity hunt. And as people were selling up here, their stop losses were all hit and price pushed down. So that's why I would have never have taken this confirmation trade right here. So as far as the USD yen goes right now, we still are reacting off of that 4-hour that daily area of supply. And we are actually left with a new 4-hour area of demand here. So we definitely could see a push up off of this 4-hour demand. If we do break this 4-hour area of demand, leaving us with 4-hour supply here, you could definitely use this 4-hour supply zone for a potential short trade, but confirmation will definitely be needed in here. And if you want to learn more about confirmation trading or want private forecasts every Sunday and custom chart analysis, check out the Silver membership. Links in the description down below. Would be happy to see you guys join the team. So you could be looking for potentially day trading opportunities long off of this 4-hour demand to continue to trade with the overall weekly and monthly uptrends on the USD yen. But at the end of the day, price is looking pretty weak on the daily chart. So if we do get this 4-hour supply removed, leaving us with if we do get this 4-hour demand removed, leaving us with 4-hour supply, you could potentially look for shorts coming off of that 4-hour supply zone. Other than that, not really seeing too much else here on USD yen. As a swing trader, what I am waiting for is for this daily supply to be taken out. And if we're left with daily demand, I'll be interested in trading inside of that daily area of demand. All right, on to the GBPUSD. The past week, the banks added 3,469 long positions and they added 1,015 short positions. Now, this looks very similar to some of the other charts we've already gone over, where we did lose the momentum on the weekly chart, and we basically have a daily uptrend here on the daily chart. So with that being said, as far as the pound goes now, the difference between the pound and like something like gold, there's no weekly supply here. The weekly supply was actually removed. So this 4-hour zone at 1.23, let me just pull up the 4-hour chart here. We did lose momentum on the 4-hour chart, leaving us with a pretty nice area of 4-hour supply. Now, this supply zone is so quality, in my opinion, that even though there is no weekly supply, you could be treating this 4-hour zone as your higher time frame, and you could look for a 15-minute confirmation trade short off of this 4-hour supply zone at 1.23. Now, as far as longs go, since in last week's forecast, we had the 4-hour uptrend, so I was saying longs were good on day trading timeframes, but since we lost momentum on the 4-hour chart, leaving us with this supply, we would need to see more evidence that the trend is actually going to continue up before we just hop in long. Either that, or we wait for this weekly demand to be hit at 1.15, which obviously is going to take quite a while for that to play out. So as far as longs go, I'm not really seeing it. I want to wait for this high to be removed, where we can then call the 4-hour an uptrend again. And at that point, we could be looking for longs. But for now, since we have lost momentum on the 4-hour chart, I think, like I said, looking for day trade shorts off that 4-hour supply is okay. And longs, we just need to wait for new zones to be hit or for the 4-hour trend to continue up. All right, now we are on to the USDCAD. The past week, the banks added 6,161 long contracts and they added 1,003 short contracts. Now on the USDCAD here, a little bit of a different chart compared to some of the other pairs here, where we do have a 4-hour uptrend and a 1-hour uptrend. We do not have a trend on the daily chart, but if you look at the daily chart here, you can clearly see we are coming in contact again with this daily supply at 1.369. Now the supply has been tested a few times already, so we are coming in for a second test, which makes this daily supply zone even lower odds. So I wouldn't be surprised if we base up around this supply and get a push and break this daily supply zone, especially since we are coming off of basically weekly demand and the overall momentum is up. I am expecting this daily supply to potentially break, but it doesn't mean that shorts are, not a great idea. But as far as shorts go, I would just be looking at this 4-hour chart here, and I would be looking for something like this if you want a short. We would need to see not only this trend line, but both of these demand zones removed. Just this demand zone removed would be okay as long as the trend line is broken. So if we do get that to take place, leaving us with 4-hour supply, you could treat that 4-hour supply as your potential confirmation short trade. If you do believe that daily supply is going to be broken, which is something that I definitely am thinking is going to happen, well, we do have, like I said, 4-hour and 1-hour uptrends, so we could be looking for potential long trades in here. Now, the problem with looking for a confirmation trade inside this 4-hour demand is it's very poor quality, and I don't even really recommend it at all. So with that being said, I think since we have a 4-hour, 1-hour uptrend, we could be looking for set and forget trades to the upside on day trading timeframes, and those timeframes include the 1-minute, 5-minute, and even the 15-minute chart. So I think for now, it's either day trading longs to trade with the overall 4-hour and 1-hour uptrends on, like I said, day trading timeframes, or we look for a potential short trade for a swing trade if we get something like that taking place. But right now, USDCAD not looking super clear. Just remember, this daily supply is tested, so it's weak. Doesn't mean we won't see a reaction off of it to the downside. And if you are going to get in long, I would definitely consider looking for half risk trades based on we are in daily supply. So at that point, yes, it is looking like the daily supply is going to get broken, but it doesn't mean, like I said, it doesn't mean we won't see a down move, meaning we want to potentially risk less than what we usually would on a golden setup. All right, looking at AUDUSD forecast. The past week, the banks got rid of 509 long contracts and they got rid of 3,235 short contracts. Now, the main thing in this Aussie US dollar pair right here, the main thing is that we are reacting off of weekly supply at 0.679 in a weekly downtrend. So if you remember from last week's forecast, I talked about the significance of this weekly supply zone and how we could see a move down from this weekly supply. And I also talked about how we are waiting for a 4-hour confirmation. And the problem here, and this is why I this is why I prefer set and forget trading, where we got confirmation so many times. You got it here, you could have had a short off of here, you could have had a little short off of here. This one would have lost, this one would have lost, right? So it's definitely very confusing to trade confirmation. But I noticed something that took place in the last week here. We had a demand zone here on the 4-hour chart and a demand zone here. Both of these demand zones are removed. Not only that, we removed this upward trend line and this upward trend line. So in my opinion, this 4-hour supply zone at 0.674 is extremely significant. It doesn't mean this is a for sure move down. Nothing is 100%. But in my opinion, this is a very, very strong 4-hour supply zone. Look at the move we had down after this basing structure. I absolutely love the basing here. It's a single candle base, which is what I personally prefer in my own trading. So in my opinion, this is a potential setup here where you could just place a trade here with a short here. Remember, nothing is financial advice. You should only do things that you think make sense. But in my opinion, this is a potential setup. It doesn't mean it's going to work. If you don't feel great with just placing a short here with the stop loss here and take profit, that's okay. You could set an alert here and look for extra 15-minute confirmation to get a day trade off of this 4-hour supply zone. So in my opinion, if we do get a push up to this 4-hour supply, we could definitely see a move down. And somebody in the Patreon and YouTube membership asked me a question. They said, should we be looking for shorts in the Aussie considering we are so close to this daily area of demand? And in my opinion, I want to break this down for a quick second. And it's a very good point, and I definitely agree with what he's saying, but the problem with it is that this daily demand has been tested once, almost twice, so that makes this daily demand weaker. And what is stronger than daily demand? Well, what is stronger than daily demand is a weekly supply. So in my opinion, the weekly supply trumps the daily demand, and this 4-hour supply zone at 0.67 is definitely a zone of interest on Aussie US dollar. All right, on to the Swiss franc forecast. The past week, the banks added 319 long positions, and they also added 738 short positions. This is a very interesting chart. And the first things first is we are reacting off of this weekly demand. The weekly demand is not that great. And not only that, we are breaking this trend line here, the upward trend line on the weekly chart. Now, the daily momentum is clearly down with supply zones being formed. So in my opinion, it is a confusing one to trade. But if you pop into the 4-hour chart here, something significant is happening. We had a very clean 4-hour downtrend here, and we actually ended up breaking the downtrend today. So with that being said, if you want to get in long, I think we could look for a day trade coming off of this 4-hour demand at 0.93. That is one option. The second option is if we could, let's say we don't pull back to this demand or we pull back a little lower and then we break this supply at 0.93, then if we're left with 4-hour demand here, you could do the same thing I said you could do down here, where you could look for a confirmation trade coming off of that 4-hour area of demand. Remember, I will have that. I will have all these zones if you are a YouTube and Patreon member for you every day. So those are really the only two options here on USD Swiss. Yes, we are coming off of a weekly area of demand. It is very poor quality in my opinion, so it is definitely a little risky. Another option for longs is to wait for this daily supply to be removed and then look for longs inside the daily demand that removes that supply. But obviously that hasn't taken place yet. And as far as shorts go, I'm not loving it based on the idea that weekly demand is in control. And it doesn't mean this weekly demand is going to hold. Nothing is 100%. But as you can see, every time we hit demand, we usually get a move to the upside. So as far as shorts go, I would wait for a significant push down, breaking that low here. And if we're left with 4-hour supply, then at that point, I would feel more comfortable with getting in short, because we don't want to just be shorting after we've lost momentum on the 4-hour chart. We want to see proof that the zone that was responsible for removing the downward momentum gets removed itself before we just hop in short. All right, we are moving on to crude oil. The past week, the banks got rid of 2,998 long contracts and they got rid of 837 short contracts. Now, in oil, first things first, we did break this weekly area of demand the past week. So that's very unfortunate because I did expect oil to have a push up to at least 88, in my opinion, to that weekly supply zone. But obviously, since we have a daily downtrend right now, price is definitely looking very weak, but on the 4-hour chart, we've lost momentum to the downside. We are currently pushing up. Yes, we reacted off of my 4-hour supply zone at 76.93. We reacted perfectly off that supply zone. So as far as longs go, since we are inside a 3-month area of demand, and I'm drawing it for you guys right now, this is what the 3-month area of demand looks like. 3-month demand is very, very significant as far as a macro chart perspective. So we could definitely see oil rally from here. It's all about being patient and waiting for potential long trades. Now, it doesn't mean we can't be shorting. It doesn't mean that this 4-hour supply zone wasn't good to look for a day trade short, because obviously a 1-minute or a 5-minute chart short, it doesn't really get affected by a 3-month area of demand as much as some people like to think. So shorts would have been fine coming off of this 4-hour supply zone. And even if we get a push up to this daily supply at $80.68, we could look for a day trade short coming off of that daily supply. Now, as far as longs go, I have no interest in getting in long on oil right now at all. I am waiting for something to take place though, and what that is, it's going to look like this, where not only we remove the downward trend line, but we also remove the supply as well. And with that being said, if we remove this supply, we would also remove this high, and then we would have a 4-hour uptrend, which makes trading long oil even higher odds. So if we can get something like this take place, leaving us with 4-hour demand, you could definitely look for a potential confirmation trade coming off of that 4-hour area of demand. So that is what I'm waiting for here on oil. I don't have any interest in shorting oil, me personally. It doesn't mean that these trades won't work out, but based on my macro chart analysis and the fact that I'm basically only a swing/position trader or investor, whatever you like to call it, that's why I am just waiting for confirmation to the long side to continue to trade with the 3-month demand zone that is in place. So as far as oil goes, I would just be on the 4-hour chart waiting for that high to be removed. And as far as shorts go, I don't really see anything except for waiting for that daily supply to be hit at $80.68, where at that point shorts are definitely a little bit higher odds. Hopefully you guys found this weekly Forex forecast helpful. If you did, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like and check out the Patreon or YouTube membership if you need help finding your supply and demand zones. It's only $5 CAD per month. Hope to see you guys there and hope to see you in the next video.